the Lord free at last. I am not suffering from debate envy because, thanks to a few of the boys, I get to be in the debates. Yes, it will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
The next question goes to Elizabeth May from the Green Party. Ms. May, the Green Party's policies call for a transformation of the Canadian economy from resource exports to high value-added business. But that's a long-term project, and Canada is facing trouble right now. What can the federal government do now, this year, to reanimate the economy?
Excellent question. We are running out of time. Canada in particular, of course, because we haven't taken action earlier. We do have a serious problem catching up with where we should be.
Watched an hour of you as
yes, and I did not call for the abolition of NAFTA.
People who watched you for an hour watched someone who did not give any of the others credit for anything.
I don't know what you're referring to, Mike.
The action to respond to the threat of the Nazis was not one where government said we'll do something as soon as we're sure that every single citizen is really on board with this. You know, in the beginning of the Second World War, they didn't say, what are you willing to do about Poland, you average Canadian person? When are you going to make it clear that you care more about that than some other issue based on polling that we're doing? If we were waiting for polling, the polling already shows 80% of Canadians want action on the climate change.
Omar Khadri, you got more class than the whole fucking cabinet. Thank you.
Elizabeth May is either a naive politician who is unknowingly leading a leftist faction of Green militants, or she's in on it. American-born with ties to Sierra Club, May's Green Party is a far cry from the old leadership of Jim Harris, a self-described eco-capitalist. May believes in state power, that is, using monopoly, taxation, and force to mold the marketplace as she sees fit. This is the exact same ideology from the 20th century that led to countless of deaths. From Hitler to Stalin to Mao, the idea that political leadership is a force for good and that all we need to do is give more power to the bureaucrat and less to the entrepreneur is dangerously flawed. Yet this is the style of governance May recommends. If the world won't voluntarily follow the eugenics program, the Green Party will force it upon humanity. And just like in World War II, May has received heavy criticism more than once for making World War II references, mostly because people aren't sure who the Nazis are in her example. No one wants to be compared to the Nazis, and to do so in the mainstream can be political suicide. But in her example, it's clear who the Nazis are. We are. Industrialized society is the enemy. The eugenicists know that consumption is the root of all economy, and this is what needs to be directed and controlled. They're coming after capitalism the way Western powers took down the Nazis, with full force, full-time war economy, and the death of millions of people on all sides. And now that the cultural Marxist perversion of our language and culture is essentially complete, the political leadership to lead us into Agenda 21 is a reality. After 10 years of the apparent anti-environmentalist Harper, Canadians are ready for someone to lead them into a fake green utopia. Supporters of May point to her good track record on opposing war and not towing the establishment line that the economy is always getting better. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. She's undeniably collectivist. That is, she believes in the power of the unlimited state, that this power can and should circumvent individual valuations so she can implement her plan for a green fascist order. She has a rotten history with globalist organizations, which are all about using the political means to meet their eugenics goals. In May's infamous Nazi example, it is the free market and individual adult consensual decisions that must be eliminated. the Green Party is merely the political arm of an army of environmental militant activists, or more accurately, activistocrats. With the onslaught of cultural Marxism and the breakdown of traditional values and the family, the result is a cultural wasteland where creating wealth is discouraged. Human beings view themselves as a virus on the planet, and progress is looked upon as a pollution and waste. In this world, scientists get grants from the government to produce politically correct science that parrots the eugenics agenda, while social justice warriors take aim at an individual level, defining our everyday language and reality itself. The Occupy movement and the Green Party in many ways mirror each other in worldview. This is why former party leader Jim Harris never made the party as popular as May. Harris was on the right track. Private property rights and capitalism is how you protect the environment. The militant leftists have hijacked the Green Party and gone the complete opposite way. No private property rights at all. Everybody plunder each other until nothing's left. Then you'll have the glorious utopia of primitive communism. Elizabeth May is either clueless or nefarious. She is building an army of militants whom she calls some of the finest youth in the country. Some of these finest youth are bought and paid for by Soros-funded globalist organizations. Protesters hired by Sierra Club got arrested in Toronto during a federal by-election campaign. As the NDP moves to the right and attracts more mainstream attention, the radical leftists need an outlet, and the Green Party has always represented their interest. Perhaps May doesn't realize that her ideology attracts the worst of the worst. Is she just clueless as to why green fascists would attract to the Green Party? She thinks they are some of the finest youth in this country, but she must be oblivious to their American connections, or she's in on it. She comes from America, she spent time working with the Sierra Club, and lo and behold, she has become the most successful Green Party leader they've ever had. As an ideology that thinks mankind is destroying the planet, and the only way to fix things is to have the centralized state control production and consumption, she's asking for legalized plunder to rule the day instead of peaceful cooperation, voluntary exchange, and strong private property rights. It's little wonder why the militant activists funded by the NGOs are infiltrating her party. She is naive to think everyone is good-natured and wants to help the environment by paying more taxes and reducing their standard of living. And she thinks nationalizing energy production is going to be an effective method to sustainable living. It's a false dichotomy that we have to sacrifice liberty for environmental sustainability. Free markets and private property protect the environment. It's state ownership that has been a disaster. Take, for example, the former Soviet Union. This is, after all, the kind of planning that May recommends. If not complete state control, then a mix of crony capitalism, which is exactly what the Nazi system was. She's using the example of fighting our industrialized society like we were Nazis, but to do so, the government must repeat the same tactics of the Nazis themselves. Officials and academics in communist countries have always insisted that pollution was a capitalist, not a socialist problem. Pollution, so went their argument and May's, was that it was the result of private corporations pushing off their costs onto the public sector. In textbooks nowadays, it's called externalities costs. But since the Soviet Union had no private corporations, by definition, there could be no pollution. Hence the disappearance of the Aral Sea, a result of Soviet irrigation projects, or the pollution of Lake Karachi. And let's not forget Chernobyl. environmental preservation is not a result of defining a problem and using tactics to overcome that problem. If it were, the USSR would still exist, and it would have long surpassed the West and its capitalist order. May recommend a two-tier system of private-public partnerships, but that is fascism. That is the economic definition of fascism, and combined with the green environmentalist culture forced onto the populace by a top-down state, it's all around fascism. And then eventually, the slow bureaucratization of the economy will lead to all-around socialism. That is, state control of every part of our lives, to a point where the entire market has been replaced by bureaucracy. We may almost be there, and Elizabeth May certainly is not helping to reverse the trend. In fact, the presence and popularity of the Green Party will only force the hands of the major parties. As the Greens become more influential, the more the Conservatives, NDP, and Liberals will borrow from their playbook. And they'll be all too willing to adopt policies that give them more power while giving the false illusion that they are helping the environment. The Green Party is not about environmental sustainability. It's about top-down power and control. It's about the eugenicist agenda to depopulate the planet and restore the planet to how it looked before human beings developed civilization. Agenda 21 is taking its course, and while the plan is for the rest of us to live and squander, if we live at all, the elite can rest assured that they, along with May, will enjoy the standard of living that we now take for granted.